the strongest voices were from South Auckland, and they were Pacifica Maori leaders begging me not to change the law. And they do want a cultural change. And then your argument could rightfully be, well, the law's changed and it's not working, therefore it just proves to you what a nonsense it is. But they're trying to change attitudes over time. And in that regard, that is also a valid part of the debate.
John, ever since, we're going back to 1996 now. Since 1996, my people, Māori and Polynesian, had been threatened with the idea from SIFS, and I would like to say I used to be an employer with SIFS 1985 to 1996 in the social work division. And since that time, parents had been threatened then not to smack a child. Today it is worse with the parents, that they are paralysed and terrified to smack a child. You said SIFs do not go out saying that. They do. In South Auckland, SIFs do say, don't smack a child. It's a law not to.
But if you accept that there's a massive problem in some communities, then the question is, how do you drive change? And I'm not saying I have an easy answer for that, but there's been, I think, one of the whole problems in this debate, that when you talk about light smacking of children, you are not talking about child abuse. They're very different issues. One set is part of what I would define as sort of parenting, what largely happens, and another are people that would have been in breach of the old law, let alone this law. And all I'm telling you is, in terms of the latter, I don't have all of the answers for it, but I do know it has to change. And I'll tell you a story that happened in my electorate. There's a little decile 3 school in my electorate, and some years ago, the principal, I went in to see the principal and said, how's your day going? And she said, oh, it's a shocker. And I said, oh, why is it? She said, well, I've got this little Samoan boy, and quite frankly, he's a bit of a pain in the neck. He's actually not being terribly well behaved. And in the end, I kind of lost my temper a bit. And so on his report, I wrote, well, little X is actually not being a great boy, and he needs to pull his socks up. And if he doesn't, I'm going to do something about it. And she said the next morning there was a knock on the door, and the father turned up with the son. Big Samoan guy wandered in and said, I'm here to tell you something. You don't tell me how to discipline my child. I discipline my child. You don't do it, I do it. And she said, well, actually, when he's in school, I do it, because we need to send messages about what's appropriate and what's not. So he stormed out. About an hour later, he came back with the kid. So he said to the kid, okay, turn around, pull up your shirt, show the principal. So he pulls up the shirt, these massive welt marks, blood running down the kid's back, and the father turned around and said, see, I do the disciplining, you don't do the disciplining. And unfortunately, that is a true story that's been repeated in quite a lot of communities. So that has got absolutely nothing to do with Section 59, except to say that we have to send a message through some communities that actually there's a big, big difference between a light smack and violence. And that's why the Maori Party get on the phone and beg me not to change the law, because they want a gold standard in their community. Now, maybe it's working and maybe it's not, but I'm just telling you that's the other side of the debate out there, and it's not easy. Yeah, I know that. Sure. Okay, well, thanks very much.